Good afternoon, Pokésports, and welcome to another tier video. We're going to be doing something different here. We're essentially going to be looking at every single typing of every single Pokemon in Sword and Shield and ranking them competitively. Now, we did already make a Series 2 competitive tier list and a Series 3 competitive tier list. If you want to check them out, they'll be down below in the description. Very exciting, but we're just going to break it down a little bit more. We're going to look at every individual typing and seeing exactly which normal type Pokemon you want to bring, or like whichever fire type Pokemon, grass type Pokemon in like later videos. But we're gonna start off with normal because normal is the most basic typing possible, only weak to fighting, immune to ghost, nothing else is going for it. So we're gonna look at that real quick, and without further ado, let's get started. Now, immediately we're looking at Pokemon like Meowth. I do have an NFE tier here, so this is kind of where we would stick regular Meowth, and I'm gonna stick Gigantamax Meowth here in D tier. I don't think there's much going for it. Persian, honestly, right alongside it. I mean, Persian's an interesting Pokemon. It gets things like Fake Out, but if you're gonna use Persian, use Alolan Persian's a lot better. Oh geez, we're just gonna stick down here in D tier for a while. Actually, I guess I'll put Persian and Gigantamax Meowth above something like a Farfetch'd. I think Farfetch'd legitimately has nothing going for it. But then here we have Ditto. I'm gonna give Ditto a solid 8 there. Ditto can transform into opposite Pokemon. It's actually very interesting this generation because of things like Dynamax and things like, stat boosts and contrary boosts and stuff like that. It could steal all of those boosts. So Ditto can be a very, very good threat, especially when you bring him in after a Dynamax Pokemon sat there and buffed up his defenses or buffed up his physical attack for a very long time. You bring in a Ditto, steal all those stats, and now you have your own on the field. Speaking about stats, we also have things like Snorlax. I'd honestly consider Snorlax and Gigantamax Snorlax in normal, in like only considering normal Pokemon. I'll stick them in S tier. I think they're very strong normal type Pokemon, if not the strongest normal type Pokemon. I'm sticking them both here because they essentially do the same thing. You'd want to use G-Max above regular Snorlax just so the max move is better. But all in all, this Pokemon with Belly Drum just setting up to +6 just becomes a serious Trick Room threat. And things like Ditto can also just, come in while the Snorlax is setting up, steal that +6, and then you have your own +6 Snorlax on the field. And then it becomes Battle of the Snorlaxes. Now, that's just my opinion on Snorlax. Let me know what you guys think down below. We're going to stick you in NFE. And then we have Gigantamax Eevee. Honestly, I know I'm gonna move you down here. I don't know. I guess I'd put Eevee. I guess I can't put it. Okay, there you go. I guess I would put Eevee. I would put it in this order. Eevee's interesting. It's not very good in terms of a G-Max. It gives infatuation to opposite sex Pokemon on the field. So, I mean, I guess that's something. Not something that I would really run, to be entirely honest. Just not really something I'd want to bank my game on. We'll stick Hoo here. Now I have to have this NFE tier because the thing that I'm using has a bunch of NFE Pokemon, but we'll just just to clear up some space here, we'll stick a bunch of NFEs here. All right. We're gonna do Noctowl. I don't see anything Noctowl can do. Maybe I'd say it's better than Farfetch'd. It's better than Farfetch'd in the sense that it does get things like Nasty Plot and does get things like Tailwind. I guess that's something. Farfetch'd literally gets nothing. Linoone gets, or used to get, something like Belly Drum. Galarian Linoone, yeah, that's an NFE. No one really uses that, to be entirely honest. If people want to use dark and normal types, they're going to use my big boy Obstagoon. I'm gonna put Obstagoon in A tier. And the reason I'm gonna put it in A tier is because I think it is so good. I think it's very good in the sense that it does so much damage. It has 2 very good abilities in like Defiant and in Guts. So it can operate just as an incredible Pokemon. The only issue with it being it is 4 times weak to fighting. So with so much Conkeldurr in the metagame right now, it's so darn hard to put it in S tier because a Mach Punch can take it out. So I'm gonna stick it in A. I think it deserves to be in A for sure. Now that I'm looking at my list, I want to move Linoone down. No, I'll put Linoone up here because Linoone could do Belly Drum things, right? I don't know if it can do it this generation, but it used to be able to do it. Let's clean this up a little bit. Unfezant. I think Unfezant is better than Noctowl. 100% better than Noctowl. I also believe that it's better than these Pokemon. It's so funny to have Gigantamax Pokemon under regular Pokemon. The fact that these two Gigantamax Pokemon are solo is because you're literally wasting a whole Gmax spot for them. So that's just kind of not a great idea. I guess I could stick Linoone here. You could give Eevee to this Linoone, it could do something, but no one uses regular Linoone. Okay. Unfezant, it gets things like Tailwind, it gets things like Brave Bird, it gets things like Bulk Up, can be very, very interesting. It's not the strongest bird that you can be using. In fact, you should be using Braviary, which I'm going to go ahead and stick in A tier, because I think Braviary is stupid good. I'm going to stick it in A tier, and you should definitely use Braviary above Unfezant, in case that isn't obvious. Braviary gets things like Close Combat. It gets moves and abilities like Defiant, Sheer Force. You could do Sheer Force, Life Orb, or you could do just Defiant, especially with all the Intimidates running around in the current meta. So that's that Pokemon. I'm gonna stick that in that tier because I think it's definitely A tier. Maybe I'd put that in the beginning of A tier. Yeah, let's move on. Cinccino's an interesting one, because it could do speed swap shenanigans. And I've seen it do I think it does speed swaps no, after you shenanigans, that's it. It does after you shenanigans. It's one of the fastest after you Pokemon, can definitely enable a lot slower Pokemon in the metagame to be a lot more relevant. So I think that's why I'm sticking in B tier, because you can make it work. B tier is like for the tier that you wouldn't really want to use, but you can make them work somehow. They're an option. But yeah, that's why I'm sticking it there. I totally think that's pretty fair to say. Next we have is Diggersby. Diggersby is strong. Huge power Diggersby is very strong. To the point where I don't know why a lot of people aren't using it, to be entirely honest. I think it's probably the speed, probably not the greatest typing in the world. But it can do so much. I think it could do a lot, in my opinion, with, just huge power earthquake damage and huge power stab quick attacks, just things like that. It's a scary Pokemon. I definitely think it's totally usable. If people supported it enough with the rest of their team, it could definitely be like a super viable Pokemon. Moving on, we have Heliolisk. I'm gonna stick Heliolisk up here. I'm actually currently running a Heliolisk on my sample team that I'm playing with, and it's not bad. Like, especially if you put it in the sun, it's a very strong electric type Pokemon, very fast for this metagame, base 109 speed and 109 special attack, can definitely pack a punch and do a lot of damage. Moving on, we have Bewear the Bewear. I'm gonna stick him here. Also, very strong Pokemon, not a lot of people utilize it. It's a very strong Trick Room Pokemon specifically. I think it could be used very well. Things like Superpower just make it even better in Trick Room scenarios. You can lead with it next to your Trick Room setter, go for the Superpower, then go for the Trick Room that turn, and then the negatives. I meant Hammer Arm. I said Superpower. Hammer Arm is really good because you can lower your speed with the Hammer Arm, and then you be in Trick Room with the -1 speed, and then go to town. Speaking of Trick Room, I'm gonna go ahead and stick Oranguru up here too. Oranguru, very interesting Trick Room setter because it has access to Inner Focus. You can't flinch it. It also has access to normal typing, which is why it's on this list. So it means you can't Shadow Ball it. And, Instruct, the very, very good move, especially if you're doing things like Instruct and Rock Slide. That gets really annoying because then you increase your chances of flinching by 2. So I think it's a good Pokemon. It's not seeing a lot of use in this metagame because it actually can't live a lot of, really strong Dark type users and really strong D-Max Dark type moves. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Maybe you want to stick a berry on it to reduce those. But all in all, it's a great Trick Room Pokemon. Probably needs a lot of Follow Me support also, but can definitely work, especially with Instruct. You can make it work very well. Type Null. Type Null with Eevee is a thing. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think that it needs something, right? And then Silvally is another one. I'm going to put Silvally right next to him because Silvally gets more attack in general than Type Null. Type Null gets a lot less speed than Silvally, but they're both very strong normal type Pokemon. They can both dish a lot of damage, especially with things like Multi-Strike, whatever that signature move is called, where it changes the typing based on the thing. I just don't think that if you were going to run a Silvally, you wouldn't really want to run a normal one. You would kind of want to run, one of the other typings that are lacking. But, you know, type Note with Eevee could be very good in Trick Room, but it's very situational. You'd have to support it a lot for it to work. And that's why I do want to stick it in B tier here. Next, we have Indeedee. I'm going to stick that right up here. Indeedee is a great Pokemon. Incredible Pokemon. Female specifically. It's such a good follow me user. It has access to so many supportive moves. It's paired so well next to a Trick Room setter like Oranguru, like Hatterene, etc., and can just do so much for a team. It's definitely been one of my favorite Pokemon this generation, and you know, Psychic Surge is an incredible ability. You really can't get any better than Psychic Surge with just the elimination of priority moves in general. So I'm gonna stick Indeedee up here, females up there, and then male I'm gonna put down here. I love male Indeedee. I use it so much. I'm currently using it next to a Slurpuff, trying to make that work, which is very interesting. It does so much damage, and you don't expect it to do so much damage because when people see Indeedee, they think of female Indeedee, which doesn't do a lot of damage. But you get a male Indeedee, you give a Life Orb to it, you D-max it in the Psychic Terrain. It does so much damage. It one-shots things. It is a threat. So that's why I'm sticking here. Actually, now that I'm looking at this tier a little bit more, I'm going to stick Braviary up here. I think Braviary deserves to be higher up. Braviary defined the metagame so much early on. So I think Braviary deserves to be up there for sure. Moving on, we have Drampa. I like it. I like Drampa. Drampa can work. Drampa can work very well. Does need a lot of team support. It is very slow dragon. It has an awkward amount of damage to where it feels like it should be outputting more damage for what it's doing, but it's not. But it could definitely work. There are probably better slow dragons that you'd want on a Trick Room team, but Drampa can do a lot, I think, with Berserk and with Sap Sipper and Cloud9. It has very interesting abilities. And very weather heavy metas, you can totally run well with Cloud9 and just completely nullify it. Like right now, it actually might be very useful right now because we're seeing a huge surgence of Sun teams and like the death of Rain teams, right? Because everyone's running a Lapras with Freeze Dry, so Rain teams are really struggling. And then on top of that, everyone's running, you know, the Solar Power G-Max Charizard and Venusaur and a Torkoal. So maybe just eliminating that by going for Cloud9, you just get rid of all those stat boosts, and then, you know, Charizard's a lot less of a threat. Well, moving on with the end of this list, we have Greedent. I'm gonna stick Greedent here. Greedent is very interesting. It's like a budget Snorlax, essentially. It's a budget Snorlax. It can actually do a lot of damage if it gets a belly drum off. It's a lot slower than Snorlax also by like 10 base speed, but it's not as strong as Snorlax, and it's not as tanky as Snorlax. So it does kind of struggle in that sense. Since it's not as tanky, it's really hard to get a belly drum off without just falling afterwards. So that's just something to keep in mind. But if you can get this thing set up, it can be a serious threat. Speaking of getting things set up, Dubwool. Guys, hear me out here. Dubwool is really strong. I think in terms of looking at all these normal type Pokemon, Dubwool will be A tier. Because you can set up 2 Cotton Guards, get this thing up to +6 defense, and then go for body presses. I've lost to this so many times. I don't know why, but I'm always the one getting stuck going against a double player in ladder, and for some reason, I always ignore it until it's the last Pokemon. And by doing that, all it has to do is set up 2 Cotton Guards, be incredibly tanky, and I can't touch it. It just goes for body press, and I essentially get one shot almost every time. Like... There's always situations where it's like, oh, I have a Conkeldurr, I can deal with this later. But no, Conkeldurr can't do anything to +6 Dubwool, especially if it gets fluffy. Like, I can't touch it, literally at all. So that's just something to keep in mind. I think it's a very strong Pokemon. It does need a little bit of setup, so it's not quite S tier. But yeah, I think this is our normal type list. So please, you guys know what to do with these tier list videos. I love interaction, I love comments. So go ahead and leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think about this tier list. It's funny because I stuck the Gigantamax Pokemon here in D tier because I think they're not very good, but maybe you guys have different opinions than me. I'm also a little bit I'm also a little bit hesitant on this C tier. Maybe I want to stick Unfezant here, but the only reason I don't want to stick Unfezant there is because I do believe Unfezant is better than Noctowl. But yeah, all in all, that's my tier list. Please let me know what you guys think down below. Subscribe to Pokésports if you haven't already. Check out our podcast every Wednesday. Check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Pokésports Check out our merch. Links to everything are in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Kevin. This is Pokésports. Have a great night. Peace out.